It started as a warm Sunday afternoon. Children laughing, grills sizzling, the smell of barbecue hanging in the air. But in the middle of that joy, one phone call, one word twisted with venom, changed everything. A family just trying to celebrate life suddenly found themselves surrounded by flashing red and blue lights. And as an officer stepped out of his cruiser, his eyes froze because the faces he saw weren't just anybody. They were the faces of the most powerful family in the city, the mayor's family. And now, what began as a petty call of suspicious behavior would unravel into one of the most humiliating scandals the city had ever seen. It was Lincoln Park, a place where the city's working-class families came to escape the noise of the streets. Picnic tables scattered across the grass, the sound of basketballs echoing off the court, toddlers chasing bubbles in the open air. On this particular day, the Johnsons had gathered. A family of 5, parents, kids, and cousins. They weren't rich, but they were respectable. And on that afternoon, they just wanted peace. But someone else at the park didn't see it that way. A woman sitting across the lawn with a small dog in her lap dialed 911. Her voice was sharp, cold, almost rehearsed. They don't belong here. They're being aggressive. They are threatening me. Her name was Karen Whitfield. And in a city where police encounters had already left scars, that phone call could mean disaster. Now, let's talk about the Johnsons. This wasn't just any black family. The father, Marcus Johnson, was a community activist turned politician. His wife, Denise, was a local teacher known for mentoring kids who didn't have much. And their eldest daughter, Maya, was weeks away from graduating top of her class. The Johnsons carried themselves with dignity. They believed in change. They believed in pushing forward, no matter the obstacles. But that didn't stop whispers. Some neighbors didn't like Marcus Johnson's rise in politics. Some thought he was too outspoken. Some didn't want to see a black man shaking the system. And on that day at the park, those whispers turned into a weapon. Because Karen Whitfield knew exactly who Marcus was. And she wanted to remind him that no matter his title, he could still be brought down. The dispatcher's voice cut through. Units respond to a disturbance at Lincoln Park. Possible threat. Caller feels unsafe. Within minutes, the sound of sirens shattered the air. The kids froze. Denise clutched her youngest son's hand. Marcus lifted his head, already knowing how bad this could look. 3 police cruisers pulled up, tires crunching against gravel. Doors slammed, and then silence. All eyes turned to the officer stepping forward. Officer Daniel Reeves, a man known for his calm demeanor, a man who had served the community for 20 years. But as he walked closer, his jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed, because in front of him wasn't just a group of strangers. It was the mayor's family. Yes, Marcus Johnson wasn't just any activist anymore. He had just been elected mayor 2 months prior, the first black mayor the city had ever seen. And yet, here he was, standing in front of police cruisers, being treated like a criminal. Karen Whitfield had no idea who she was targeting. Or maybe she did. Maybe that was the point. But as Officer Reeves realized who was standing in front of him, the balance of power shifted instantly. The officers lowered their hands from their holsters. The tension cracked. But the damage had already been done. Because the children had seen it. The family had felt it. And Karen, still standing off to the side, smirked, clutching her dog like she had won some kind of battle. Now here's where things take a darker turn. At first glance, Karen Whitfield looked like just another angry bystander. But as reporters dug deeper, something disturbing came out. Karen wasn't just a concerned citizen. She was the wife of a prominent real estate developer, a man who had publicly clashed with Marcus Johnson during his campaign. And suddenly, her phone call didn't seem random. It seemed calculated, a setup, a public humiliation designed to paint the mayor's family as out of control. The scandal spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed across the city. Mayor's family detained at park after police call. Was this a racist attack or political warfare? The next day, at a city council meeting, the truth boiled over. Marcus Johnson walked in, flanked by his wife and daughter. Cameras flashed. Reporters shoved microphones in his face. And across the room, Karen Whitfield sat, arms folded, face stiff with defiance. But when the mayor took the podium, his voice cut through like thunder. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He told a story, exactly as it happened. He described his children's tears, his wife's fear, the humiliation of standing handcuffed in front of flashing lights, in the very city he was sworn to protect. And then he paused, looked directly into the camera, and said words that would echo across the nation. You can call the police on me. You can try to strip me of dignity. But what you cannot take away is the truth. And the truth is, this city will never go back to silence. The room erupted, applause mixed with outrage. And for the first time, Karen Whitfield wasn't smirking. But here's where it gets haunting. Despite the backlash, no charges were filed against Karen. No fines, no punishment. She walked away untouched. And while the Johnsons gained sympathy, the scars of that day never fully healed. Children still ask, "Daddy, why did they think we were dangerous?" And the community still wonders, if this could happen to the mayor's family, what does that mean for the rest of us? Because in America, titles may protect you for a moment, but the color of your skin never stops being a target. So the question remains, was this just a bitter woman lashing out? Or was it a warning shot fired by a system desperate to keep its power? And if the mayor's family can't find justice, who can? What this story teaches us is simple but powerful. Dignity cannot be erased by lies. Resilience cannot be broken by humiliation. And when the truth is dragged into the light, no amount of silence, no amount of power can hide it again. Because sometimes the very people underestimated, mistreated, and dismissed become the voices that change everything. And so, the story of the Johnsons isn't just about one family. It's about every black parent, every child, every community that's ever been told they don't belong. But belonging isn't up for debate. It's ours. And no phone call, no Karen, can take that away. Or can they? Because the next call might come tomorrow. And that is the struggle. Last time, we saw how one phone call, dripping with malice, turned a family barbecue into a public humiliation. The Johnsons, no ordinary family, but the mayor's family, stood under flashing police lights, accused, demeaned, nearly broken. But what we didn't know then was that Karen Whitfield's call wasn't just about bias. It was part of something bigger, a web of power, a quiet conspiracy, a plan to silence the very man elected to bring change. After the incident, the city was restless. Protests erupted outside City Hall. People demanded answers, demanded justice. But while the mayor tried to calm the storm, whispers grew louder. Whispers that the 9/11 call wasn't an accident, that it wasn't random, that Karen Whitfield was just a pawn, sent in to do someone else's dirty work. And when reporters started digging, what they found was chilling. Marcus Johnson had always known politics was dirty. But now, he was seeing just how dirty. Behind closed doors, city council members, some of them supposed allies, questioned his leadership. They argued he had embarrassed the city, that his personal drama was distracting from his duties. And slowly, the narrative was being twisted. Instead of being the victim, Marcus was painted as the problem. But Marcus wasn't the type to fold. If they wanted to smear him, he would fight back. And that's when he started his own investigation. Late one night, sitting at his desk, papers scattered across the floor, Marcus traced connections between Karen's husband and a shadowy group of investors, developers, lobbyists, councilmen, and all roads led to one name, Councilman Richard Harlan, a man who had been in power for decades, a man who had never lost an election, and a man who had everything to lose when Marcus Johnson became mayor. Because Marcus had promised to block a $1 billion real estate deal, one that would displace hundreds of low-income families. And guess who was behind that deal? Richard Harlan and his longtime friend, Karen's husband. Suddenly, it all made sense. Karen's call wasn't about a disturbance. It was about creating a distraction, smearing Marcus Johnson in front of the cameras. But the deeper Marcus looked, the more dangerous it became. Council records disappeared. Emails were wiped clean. Anonymous threats started flooding his phone. And then one night, after leaving a late meeting, Marcus noticed headlights in his rearview mirror. A black SUV, following him, mile after mile, until it vanished into the dark. The next city council meeting wasn't like the others. This time, the mayor walked in carrying a folder. Inside, documents, contracts, signed checks. Proof. He took the podium. Cameras rolled. And in front of the entire city, Marcus Johnson exposed the conspiracy. He named names, showed connections, laid out how Karen Whitfield's 911 call was nothing more than a political weapon. The room went silent. Councilman Richard Harlan's face turned pale. His jaw clenched. And for the first time, he looked cornered. But here's where the story takes its darkest turn. Because within hours of that meeting, federal agents raided City Hall. Not to arrest Harlan, not to question Karen, but to investigate. Marcus Johnson, yes, the mayor who exposed corruption, was now accused of corruption himself. Fake charges, fabricated evidence, and suddenly, the man who had been targeted at the park was facing the fight of his life. Because now it wasn't just about a phone call, it was about survival. And the question remains, was this justice finally being twisted into revenge? Or was Marcus Johnson closer to uncovering the truth than anyone realized? Sometimes, when you stand up for what's right, the system doesn't clap for you. It comes for you. But dignity isn't in the titles they strip away. It's in the truth you carry, even when they try to bury it. And in the fight for justice, every move forward comes with a price. The only